Kindly for joining us. A Charlottesville, Central Virginia, Commonwealth, country, and worldwide audience at our disposal. The show presented by Skooma Boutique Dispensary. The best dispensary in Charlottesville is a local dispensary with a location on the downtown mall and one on Ellwood Avenue. Skooma Boutique Dispensary. We have a lot to cover on today's show. We have a man who works for the city of Charlottesville in the IT department, who was outed, doxxed by a local journalist and activist, Molly Cogner, Socialist Dog Mom on Twitter. She does a phenomenal job on her Twitter account. We frequently read Molly Cogner and Socialist Dog Mom. We encourage you to do the same and support her Patreon. Molly outed, doxxed the IT staffer in City Hall, who was inside the Capitol, in what was one of the ugliest, most infamous days in U.S. history. Americans storming the Capitol. This man has written a letter of apology to his employer, City Hall, Charlottesville, and has kept his job. That letter of apology was enough contrition to appease the mercenary city manager Michael Rogers of the Robert Bob Group. That topic on today's show. Plus the man, the employee of City Hall, he has a history of pulling guns on people. We'll tell you that on today's show. The 5-year anniversary of August 12th is 10 days away. 5-year anniversary of August 12th, 10 days away. City Council, City Hall announces a safety plan. Carol Thorpe brings this through to the community's attention, the Queen of Jack Jewett. After her speech, her presentation, her sharing of perspectives to City Council, she passes along to me what she relayed to the men and women on the dais. We then use that as the foundation on our platform to turn up the heat. To turn up the heat on council and respectfully insist and demand on council announcing a plan of safety for the 5-year anniversary of August 12th. Well, now we have that plan. We'll talk about that today on the show. We will talk credit card balance is spiking 13%. We'll talk U.S. household debt topping $16 trillion for the first time in American history. We'll talk about the vulnerability of the American consumer in comparison to the Charlottesville and Central Virginian consumer. All those topics and more on a gorgeous Tuesday. Judah Wickhauer, two shot. You and I are going to disagree on the CVille staffer keeping his job. Let's get to that topic in about 90 seconds. Before we do, let's dot the I's and cross the T's on the August 12th safety plan that was recently identified, outlined, and spotlighted and relayed to the community by City Hall. I'm glad it was announced. We utilized this platform to turn up the heat, J-Dubs, on Charlottesville and City Hall, saying, why in God's name would you just not manage perspective and tell us what the plan is of safety?
Yep.
That's all we said, right? We said we're taxpayers. We love this community. All of us do. We live in this community. Just let us know what the plan is.
Yeah.
And now they've said that the Charlottesville Police Department is monitoring message boards to identify threats. The Charlottesville Police Department will work in conjunction with the Ting Pavilion as they host Fridays After 5 on August 12th. I don't know if I personally would be going to Fridays After 5 on A12 on the 5-year anniversary. That's just me, okay? Some people may disagree. They're going to have extra police patrols around the downtown mall, Judah. They're going to increase available coverage in parks and around the downtown mall. which can be activated quickly in response to any pop-up emergency that might occur. The CPD is having ongoing communications with state and regional partners to be prepared quickly to respond to any incidents that may occur. At this time, the City of Charlottesville will initiate following street closures from 6 p.m. on August 11th through 6:30 a.m. on Sunday, August 15th. They're going to close Heather Higher Way, 4th Street. Public transit provided by Charlottesville Area Transit will operate on a normal schedule. So they're giving us ideas of what they're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is all the stuff that they already had planned. I'm sure they were listening to chatter on on intelligence channels to see if they thought anybody was coming to cause trouble, and it doesn't sound like they have any information. It doesn't sound like anything has come up to indicate that we have anybody coming to Charlottesville.
Yeah, they said that. They've indicated no credible threats.
They're right around the corner. So if anything happens at the park or downtown, they're like meters away. And I think the best thing that I've heard is closing Heather Higher Way. That's just even
common sense.
Yeah.
Do you buy this from Kevin Yancey? Kevin Yancey's the king of Waynesboro. He says, if you alter your normal daily life or plan, Jerry and Judah, they have already won. I don't buy that.
I agree.
I don't buy that. Well, you're pro closing 4th Street, Heather Higher Way. That's altering life.
But
I mean, what have they really done? They've announced that they're going to have more patrols and they're going to close 4th Street.
Did they
and
really
they're going to closely monitor
Ting
Pavilion. What's that? They haven't done anything. If you think about it, 4th Street is always closed during Fridays after 5. So Heather Higher Way is always closed during Fridays after 5.
I don't think they're really doing anything different.
I'm right. But what they're doing is they're managing perception.
Yeah.
This is the brilliance of it and what we ask them to do. When you relay this to the community, it manages perception. And the perception is, hey, we're on top of it. Rest easy. And that is value. It's like, what's the old saying? Showing up to work is like 70% of your job. Showing up to work on time and showing up to work every day.
Okay.
Manage the perception. Showing up to work and being on time to earn the promotion. Manage the perception. Here's the plan of attack for August 12th, the 5-year anniversary, and you earn the community's trust. Anyone who watches this program realizes that I am pro-blue. I am pro-blue. Anyone who watches or listens to this show, we don't have jobs where we put our clothes on in fear for our lives.
Right.
I have to talk on a microphone and manage some clients and help them earn some extra money and keep some office and some residential investments full. Mm-hmm. In the grand scheme of things, it's marginal. Now let's get to the topic we're going to disagree on. And giddy up and get ready, Charlottesville, on this. Scott Aaronworth, Neil Williamson, welcome to the program. Alex Urpí is going to join us in about 10 minutes. We're going to be talking about credit card debt surging in America. We're going to be talking about $16 trillion of household debt in America, the highest it's ever been. Scott Aaronworth, the Esquire in Virginia Beach, the king of Virginia Beach, says my client showing up for court is 80% of the game. Exactly. You know what the thing, you know why? You know one of the secrets of success? One of the secrets of success. Do the things that are common sense. Show up to work early. Finish your shift a little bit late. Show the boss you're putting in the effort. Communicate. Tuck in your shirt. Wear a shirt that's not wrinkled. Look at people in the eye and shake their hands. Yes, sir, and no, sir. These very basic things are common habits of successful people, and folks ask folks like that have accrued some success, you must have been lucky, or how did you do it? There's no secret sauce. every day doing common sense things and stringing them together day after day after day. There's no secret sauce. All right, let's get to the next topic where we're going to disagree on. You want to set the stage? Wait, you thought I was on a soapbox there?
Oh,
I don't know. You thought that was soapbox?
I know that's a rarity, but
you got zingers. All right, you want to set the stage of the IT staffer? I'm curious of how you set the stage versus how I set the stage, because it's going to be very different. Give the background on the story first, or would you prefer that I do this? No, and you have to do this succinctly, please, dear God.
I can start it off.
Okay, go.
So there is a city IT employee who attended what is being called the insurrection, and he has been called out by Molly Conger, socialist dog mom.
On Twitter.
A
journalist and activist.
And we've discussed in the past whether or not we think he deserves to keep his job. And I mean, that's pretty succinct, isn't it?
That was damn good. That was the most succinct I've ever heard you in the 10 plus. How long have we worked? 10 plus years of you working here?
10 years.
That's the most succinct I've ever heard you.
That's not true.
I think that was phenomenal. Job well done, Judah. I love it. So the beef. Here's where we have friction. Charlottesville is trying to rehabilitate its brand and image from August 12th. That's fair, right?
Sure.
Charlottesville is trying... That's fair. Charlottesville is trying to rehabilitate its image still from A12, 10 days away from the 5-year anniversary. Recently, it's been pointed out by Molly Conger, socialist dog mom, who has a massive following on Twitter. I mean, we're talking 6 figures plus, very well followed, very hardworking journalists and activists, that one of the people working in IT, a white man, was...
I think he's the only one working in IT.
I can't speak with confidence and conviction on that.
She's got a rundown of how the system is set up with all the employees.
She's got the flow chart.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to put that on screen and capture and put it on screen, I'm happy to put it on screen and look at it. So he was doxxed by her for being in the Capitol.
Yeah.
What is that, a couple of Januaries ago, right? And the proverbial you-know-what hit the fan. Because Chief Brackney, former police chief Brackney, pointed this out to the FBI. Depending on who you talk to, the FBI said this was either a really big deal and this guy should be monitored or canned, or depending on who you talk to, the FBI did not have any follow-up to this, so there was nothing more to the story.
Basically. I believe the FBI has talked to him multiple times.
Multiple times. Some people you talk to in City Hall says there's nothing to this. The FBI cleared them. Other people you talk to in City Hall said, no way, Jose. The FBI said this guy's bad news bears. He's working in IT in the freaking Charlottesville city. This dude, the Fresh News, writes a letter of apology. This form of contrition, the written word, pulls at the heartstrings of the hired mercenary, Michael Rogers, the interim city manager. What, you don't like that language?
Everybody should know that this is all conjecture on Jerry's part.
Which part is conjecture?
You're basically writing a fiction book.
I'm a man that is very good with his words, that is able to hold people's attention by taking something that would otherwise be man writes letter, hands letter to consultant city manager asking for a second chance.
I'm not saying...
You want me to talk like that?
I'm not saying you should talk like that.
That's what it is.
Instead, just letting our viewers know that you are embellishing this.
I am not embellishing.
You are.
Which part was embellished? He's a hired gun. He's a mercenary city manager. He's a pay-for-play city manager. What's wrong? What's embellished there? What, pulled at his heartstrings? Is that you want me?
Do we really have to go through word by word? Trust me, folks.
All right, I'll give you. Pulled at his heartstrings was perhaps a little bit of
you don't know who
colorful
you don't know who
language.
the letter was given to or how it ended up.
No, Michael Rogers cleared him. Rogers cleared him.
I know that, but you're acting like
Rogers
this guy.
read the letter.
You're acting like this guy personally handed him the letter.
Well, Rogers is the boss. I would bet you the letter was written to Rogers. He's the guy that's calling the shots in the city.
You bet, but I'm just saying, again, it's all conjecture, or most of it is conjecture.
It's not all conjecture.
Most of it.
It's colorful language used to hold viewer and listener attention.
Yes, and we're talking about someone's job, their livelihood.
Okay, fine.
So
give some more back.
It's necessary for people to know that you're adding a few details here and there.
Oh, well, then why don't we get to the detail that really stood out to the both of us? Would you care to offer that detail?
Sure, yeah. The far more worrying to me.
And your perspective, not my perspective,
Yes.
but go ahead.
In my perspective, what is far more worrying about this person is that he was previously in an incident or a road rage incident just a couple of years ago where he was brandishing a firearm at someone.
Yeah.
Followed a woman and pulled a gun on her at a red light. That is far more worrying to me.
Angry driver gets pissed off at somebody else, pulls hard steel, a weapon, in anger.
Grief.
That's what he did.
We need to get
He pulled steel on her. That's what he did. Okay? All right, we'll get serious here. Dude pulled a gun on someone in a road rage incident, right? Documented that he did this, right? Dude also was doxxed by a Twitter superstar for being inside the Capitol on a pretty crappy day in American history. Dude works in IT for the city.
Yep.
Dude has access to sensitive information associated with city residents. Dude, if you don't believe that, you're crazy. If you basically just told me you got the flow chart of employees that you could put on screen, let the viewers and listeners know when he's on screen.
I gotta find this thing.
You just said earlier in the show he's the only guy in IT. Here's a guy who pulled a gun on somebody. Here's a guy who pulled a gun on a woman in a road rage incident. A guy who was inside the Capitol during freaking a riot. And a guy who is, you just said, the only person in IT in the city. And we're not supposed to wonder, does he have access to sensitive information? Come on. Where there's smoke, there's fire. You disagree? You disagree. How do you disagree? Viewers and listeners, do you disagree? Do you disagree? Gun, road rage, in the Capitol, during an insurrection, IT access. You're not worried about this? No one? You got the flow chart on screen?
Just about.
What am I missing here? What am I missing? That's a question for you there, J-Dubs.
What are you missing? I mean,
Yeah.
you don't know what he has access to.
Okay, so let me understand something. This is what we're going to do, and then you please offer your perspective. You want to give the guy the benefit of the doubt after he pulled a gun in a road rage incident. You want to give the guy the benefit of the doubt after we know he's been in the Capitol during a riot. You realize that I didn't utilize words like he stormed the Capitol. Okay?
I appreciate that.
I said he was in the Capitol during the riot. I wanted to use words like he stormed the Capitol with momentum and fury. Instead, I said he was in the Capitol. He pulled a gun in a road rage incident, and he has IT credentials. You say keep him on staff.
All right, here's the chart.
You say keep him on staff. Look at the workflow chart. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. Everyone look at the screen. Look at the screen now. Look at the screen.
Did not say keep him on staff.
Yes, so you're saying he should keep his job. Which one is he here? Tell us where he's at.
He is the gray center right, just under the green.
All right, so he's in the middle. Gray center right. Is that Alan Grote right there? Gray center right.
Yeah. He's the PS text board, and this is
he's in risk reduction.
This is no, DC Powers is the head of risk reduction, and he is
reports to DC Powers.
Yeah,
and risk reduction. And he works in risk reduction.
And there is no evidence to support the fact that he does not do a fantastic job in his official capacity.
That's accurate. That's fair.
My problem is that I'm not suggesting that he should keep his job. I'm not suggesting that he should be fired. What I am suggesting is that it's none of our effing business. We are not the
I respectfully disagree.
We are not the gatekeepers of who gets to work where. I can understand if there was evidence that there was a problem in his current position based on things that he has done, but if his bosses don't feel the need to get rid of him, then our inexpert opinion, along with everybody else's, is immaterial, and frankly, I find it problematic.
Okay, I'll give you props for that.
Because I cannot stand cancel culture, and anyone out there that thinks that cancel culture is a good thing can go take a long walk off a short pier.
Okay, there you go. Judah Wickhauer bringing heat and fire. That was succinct and very well said. Give props to Judah Wickhauer there. I 1,000% disagree with you.
Okay.
I respect everything you just said, and I liked how you said it eloquently and succinctly, and you were not long-winded and you were to the point. But I 1,000% disagree with you.
Okay.
1,000%. I want to get to a comic that says this better than I do. Bob Yarborough, the king of Redfields, is watching the program. I love Bob Yarborough, a man of reason and common sense. He says, as a public employee, it most certainly is our business. He says it's problematic that the city employee, Grote is his name, his last name, claimed to be security for Alex Jones and aligns himself pretty squarely with the Proud Boys. His claims that he was somehow a photojournalist lack credibility given his own admitted history. Dude, well said, Bobby Yarborough. I mean, said it better than I could. Right there, Bob Yarborough.
Okay.
A freaking city employee. He's a public employee. He's got access to stuff nobody else does. Few others do. Should he have nefarious or felonious intentions? And pulling a gun during a road rage, have you ever gotten angry while driving your car? Yes.
All the time.
Have you ever pulled a gun on someone? No. And this claim that he's a social voyeur during an insurrection, that's bogus to me. Let's go to Danny O'Day. Danny O'Day watching the program. I don't really care if he does a good job. We can certainly hire someone who does a good job who doesn't also violently attack the seat of American democracy. DOD dropping it. I'm giving you some props. It's got a little message, DOD. And dude, when you give your perspective, you got to be ready for the heat. Danny O'Day says this. I don't think this is cancel culture, Judah. People don't want him fired for voting for Trump or for an off-the-wall tweet. He was literally in the Capitol building with a violent mob. That's how I feel.
That's a fair perspective.
That's how I feel. Scott Aaronworth in Virginia Beach, giving you referring to your moniker, J-Dubs. Hey, J-Dubs, that guy would be fired if he worked for Aaronworth Law. That is a bad look for my office. That's my point. We are 10 days away from the 5-year anniversary of August 12th. I just explained we're trying to rehabilitate our image as a jurisdiction in a city, and now, 10 days removed from the 5-year anniversary of August 12th, we have in the news cycle that the lone guy in IT in risk reduction, Alan Grote, pulled steel on someone during a road rage incident and was doxxed by Molly Cogner, Socialist Dog Mom on Twitter, for being inside the Capitol during a riot and an insurrection. Guess what, boys and girls? This is a crappy look for the city of Charlottesville. Say what you want about safety. This dude has access to sensitive information. How about brand equity, awareness, and the potential harm this could do to the Charlottesville brand if discovered by national or regional media. Here's the headline. Want me to write it for you? I used to be a journalist before launching this company. You want the headline? Ready for it? 10 days removed from 5-year anniversary, City of Charlottesville maintains insurrectionists on payroll. Everyone's going to read that viral article. 10 days removed from A12 Anniversary, City Hall keeps insurrectionists on payroll. Who's not going to read that? Alex Urpí's coming in the green room here. Good to see you, Alex Urpí. He's got a fresh haircut. He's looking dapper. He's got a new hat, it looks like. I don't think I've ever seen him wear that hat into this studio. I try to be very observant with my friends and family. But I want your perspective here. Your perspective is valuable to you. I mean, I truly had this conversation over some cocktails. I think you have made the show so much better because how we see things in life, our lenses of life, our life lenses are so different. So please offer your perspective. It's valuable, it's appreciated, and needed.
I still maintain that I'm much more worried about his record with road rage than I am with the optics of the
being in the Capitol.
Yeah, being in the Capitol. I mean, there were a lot of people there. They weren't all insurrectionists. Am I wrong? Not everybody that went there to storm the Capitol and tear down the government. There were a lot of people. I'm pretty sure there were a lot of people that felt like there had been some wrongdoing in the election, and they went there as a protest.
Whether
what?
I don't. Being in the Capitol and claiming to be a photojournalist or a social voyeur. A social voyeur is someone who pursues seeing
journalists
life that's going to be remembered. Good or bad. That's a social voyeur. A social voyeur, it's one thing to look in the sky and watch a meteor or a comet or an eclipse. It's one thing to be a social voyeur and check out a smoking hot babe on the beach in a bikini. It's one thing to be a social voyeur and walk by a bakery and say, God, that cake looks delicious. That baker has talent. It's another thing to be a social voyeur and to be inside the Capitol with psychopaths wearing headdresses, trying to hurt people in a place that's the epicenter of American democracy. There are levels of credibility within the social voyeur label. Anyway.
All right.
I respect you very much, and I knew this would be a good topic for discussion. We'll get to some comments, and then we have Alex Urpí on the program here. He is looking better than Antonio Banderas. I mean, he makes Antonio Banderas look average here, Alex Urpí. Neil Williamson, for what it's worth, I believe Charlottesville brand awareness might have been harmed more prior to Mayor Nakia Walker's poetry. Good Lord. There's few things that have harmed Charlottesville's brand than Nakia Walker's stream of conscious poetry. There's A12. There's Vinegar Hill. There's systematic racism. There's some issues with some citizens and some folks of authority. And then there's that poetry. Kevin's got a question for you. Judah, do you think the gallows were just a prop?
The gallows. I would need a little more context.
During the riots, there were gallows. And he also highlights, this is a hot topic. Some folks are disagreeing here. We'll go on to something else.
I honestly don't know whether they were a prop or intended to be used on someone, but saying that everybody that was there is somehow complicit in that is questionable, I think.
I want to highlight this. He's got viewers and listeners that are giving him props. Janice Boyce Trevelyan, Judah, I agree with you. I know people who were there that did nothing except show up. Was he charged? Has anyone spoken to him? That's from Janice Boyce Trevelyan. The FBI has spoken to him.
And
the FBI has spoken to him. The Charlottesville Police Department has spoken to him. He had to write a letter of apology to keep his job. Most people aren't doing that. But I respect the comment, though. I'm not knocking you. I respect the comment, Janice. I love when you watch the program.
Thank you, Janice.
Yep, Janice giving Judah props. I wanted to make sure I highlighted that. I mentioned this live on air, period, enter. I sent it back to Janice. Janice, I've given you props. I'm not knocking you, Janice. Bob Yarborough and Kevin Yancey both want you to answer this question. Are you saying he was a tourist? Was he a tourist at the Capitol?
No, I'm not saying... I have no more information than anyone else does, and the FBI have apparently talked to him multiple times and not had any problems. And the city has decided to keep him working for them. I don't think it's my job to second guess either the FBI or the people who are making decisions in the city.
Fair statement. Fair statement. Scott Aaronworth says, I still love J-Dubs. Okay, he still loves you, J-Dubs. So you got multiple people who love Judah Whitgower over here. And the beautiful thing about the show is we can agree to disagree.
So glad you've got people calling me J-Dubs.
J-Dubs is a great nickname, homie. J-Dubs is a great nickname. Come on, it's a great nickname. We got to get, should we get the Antonio Banderas of finance on set? We get Alex Urpí? Alex Urpí in the mix? I don't want to put you on the spot on any of these topics unless you want to touch on these topics. I do have the credit card balances and the household debt topics for you.
That's an important
and
one.
the vulnerability of the American consumer. All right, first let me highlight who this man is. And I can follow him around every week if you would like me to. This is Alex Urpí. He's the Antonio Banderas of finance. He's the CEO of Emergent Financial Services, a family-owned business. The Urpí men do a phenomenal job. They're trustworthy. They're honest. They're hardworking. They pick up the phone when you call. They talk to you. You have access to them. Imagine that in financial services. Yes, that's pretty important.
The people you talk to the first time, every time you call, you will get the same.
You get the people. That's huge. It's called customer service. Mm-hmm. And he's an all-around great guy. And he and his father, Xavier, host Today y Mañana, a phenomenal show that's up for a Best of CVille. I believe we should be hearing about this soon.
I'm hoping it'll be fun. I've never been up for a Best of CVille in anything before, so it'll be interesting.
Best podcast, and he's turned into quite the media mogul, recently highlighted by NBC 29.
Yeah, I found out.
Alex Urpí.
I knew it was going to be to talk a little bit about just some tips for recession,
right?
And making sure people are aware of my philosophy and Xavier's philosophy, and really everyone at Emergent. Our ideas, like we're optimistic people.
Yeah,
we like to be encouraging and hopeful, but we also like to be honest with people. So if we see recession here and you get 2 negative quarters of growth and jobs number came out slowing down a little bit, we'd like to be honest with people and say it's important that this is recession. Don't be...
Thank you.
Don't listen to the idea that, no, technically, because we won't find out. The BEA that decides recessions doesn't decide that till like 3 years later. And if everyone recalls, the declaration that 2007 was a recession didn't come until like 2009, 2010, at which point it was like, gee, thank you. We kind of all knew this when everything fell apart in 2008, that we were in recession by then. So throw that out the window, because the last thing I want is for people to be making poor decisions based on incorrect information. And what I mean by that is we know there's been a lot of studies that a lot of the Great Resignation, the people that have been waiting for higher paying jobs to come, have been living slightly off their retirement savings. I'm generally not a fan of that in any circumstance. I hate that in any circumstance. However, it's even worse if you are sitting there waiting for a higher paying job because you think the economy is great, and then sure enough, you drain your retirement savings, you go out there to find that higher paying job, and it's not there anymore because recession is here, but nobody told you that it was a recession. So the way I see it is our task as financial advisors is to be honest with people and say, if you are thinking that, I will be fine because I will get a higher paying job and wages are just going on a straight line up because of inflation, then the economy is great, think again, because the last thing you need to be doing is sitting there and suddenly the job market is not as good as you thought it was.
Which is the case.
Google, I don't know if you saw that.
I saw.
The tech CEOs were already basically saying, be prepared. If we think you're not doing a good job, you're going to be fired. You're going to be laid off. Because the layoffs are coming, and we're basically going to lay off the least productive people first. So if you're sitting there saying, well, don't worry, I can always get a better job, a higher paying one, because wages are going up and there's a shortage of workers, that can turn around very quickly, and that's what happens in recession. It turns around very quickly. So our philosophy is you have to be honest with people so that people do not make poor decisions on the basis of incorrect information.
I want to highlight and unpack a few things. First, is that a new shirt?
No, I've worn it. I've worn it today, manana. Maybe my first time on.
I Love CVille. I like it. It's a very nice shirt.
Thank you.
Secondly, he's too nice of a guy to say this. I'm going to say this. I'm not as nice as Alex. The Biden administration tried to rebrand what a recession was. And last week on this program, we said, not so fast, my friends. Mm-hmm. Please don't do that. The best approach, if you're the leader of the free world, is to say exactly what Alex just did. This is a recession, and we understand Americans are struggling, and we're working our tails off to help you, instead of playing the smoke and mirrors game. Secondly,
I expect it from politicians. They always like to play up their autonomy. I'm more disappointed in financial publications like The Economist saying maybe recession is a good thing.
Yeah, definitely not a good thing.
It's not a good thing. I mean, maybe it's a good thing if you sit there and your job will never be lost and you have $2 million in the bank account. But if you're an average person or a small business owner, it's not a good thing.
Exactly. Second, want to highlight here. Many Fortune 100 companies, many Fortune 500 companies are saying we've slowed hiring, or if not stopped hiring, and we're reducing human capital off our payroll. So this work from home mindset, I think you're going to very quickly see go away. Because it's going to be the people that get the FaceTime with the bosses that are going to be getting their jobs in the promotion. And employers are looking to make people expendable because they have to save money on the bottom line. The people that are not at work are going to be the ones that, if they're not truly producing at even higher clips, are going to be the expendable ones. Now, I want to relay a couple of data points to our friend here. Household debt just surpassed $16 trillion in the second quarter for the first time in American history. That's a boatload of money. Credit card balances jumped 13%.
Which is not good.
And we've been talking about this. Let me see if I can give the exact metric for you. So the question I have for you, I see this as positive. Inflation potentially may be plateauing. Some people are saying this. Commodities are starting to drop in price, most notably gasoline. However, credit card balances, as I just indicated, rose 13% in the second quarter of 2022, notching the largest year-over-year increase in more than 20 years, that according to the Fed Reserve Bank of New York. So here's the question. This is a tough one. It seems to me that we're at a potential crossroads here. You got Americans struggling to get through this post-COVID inflationary world by putting a lot of money on credit cards, and those credit cards have floating debt rates that are escalating, which is making the payment even harder to do.
Absolutely.
Commodities, however, and inflation may be plateauing. What is the crossroad? What road is the economy going to take here?
So typically, what you typically see is that recession should depress prices. However, I'm not quite confident to be able to claim that we see inflation plateauing yet.
Okay.
Two reasons. One, you still have you even had one, it's not the Federal Reserve chair, but one of the Federal Reserve governors basically said it's still running high. Okay. Higher than they would like to see. Two, again, producer price index is still higher than consumer price index. So what the prices that the retailers are seeing before it gets to the shelves is still higher than the increase in prices that we are seeing on the shelves. That typically means that there's still upward pressure on prices. So unfortunately, I don't think we're yet out of the woods there yet. Now, we may see, hopefully we see some producer price index levels dropping. Until we see that, I'm not quite convinced that it's plateauing yet.
Okay.
And that worries me as well, because of course the last thing you need is a stagflation scenario where now you have a bad labor market and inflation.
Well, if it hasn't plateaued, then we could expect more rate hikes. Mm-hmm. What's what you're saying?
Which I think,
even deeper rate hikes.
Maybe not. I wouldn't say deeper in the sense of in one shot a higher rate hike. I suspect the Federal Reserve is not going to do more than the 75 basis points they've been doing in one shot. It's entirely possible, and I think probably likely, and Xavier can disagree with me, I don't know if he'll disagree with me on this, that we will see more rate hikes for the remainder of this year. Whether that continues next year remains to be seen. Depends how deep the recession is, how long it lasts. There have been short recessions in American history lasting a year. There have been, as we saw in 2007, 2008, 2009, there have been longer ones. So it's impossible to say at this point how long that will be. But I do think that inflation is going to be with us a little while longer, at least through the rest of the year.
The House, you ready? You want to jump in?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think inflation is more than just what we're seeing in gas prices. And yes, it's great that gas prices are going down. It's great that not everything is, turning against us. But I think there's a lot more involved. And I think part of this whole there's a credit cycle going on. And I think what you mentioned with the credit card debt going massive, jumping 13%, has to do with that. And it's just, I mean, there's, people are afraid of what they're seeing. They're trying to either, if they're lucky, they're trying to hold on to what savings they do have by using credit. If they're not lucky, they're probably using credit to shore up what they don't have, which is terrifying.
That's 100% happening.
And if this gets too out of hand, it's going to be, it might even be worse than the inflation we're seeing, because we're going to start seeing lots of people start defaulting on credit card debt.
Yeah, and we're all worried about that. Let me throw this to you guys here, and maybe slightly a little bit more bullish than you guys here. We've had the market over the last 3 weeks be incredibly positive. Mm-hmm. The NASDAQ is in fuego right now. Mm-hmm. You have
S&P 500's up today.
I mean, it's been the last 3 weeks. It's been phenomenal. Even the down days were minuscule, and the good days were great. And it's been undoubtedly a tech rally. I mean, led by the Apples, the Nvidias, the AMDs of the world here. You have, like I've identified, commodities like wheats and grains and fuels dropping in price. You're starting to see some of this inventory stockpile at these retailers. So you have some indicators out there, and we've learned from you that this is a forward-looking mechanism.
It is.
This is a forward-looking mechanism. So I want to get out of your way on those topics.
No, and indeed, I mean, the market, let's face it, the market has dropped tremendously in the first half of the year. So a lot of what you're seeing is the market looking and saying, all right, we're down 20, 25, 30%. How much more downside is there? In other words, even if we are in recession, is there actually that much more downside when the market has already collapsed?
How much deeper? 30%? How much deeper can it go?
How much lower?
Yeah, I think I read something somewhere that people were just so they were so down about how this year has begun that it just got to the point where July was kind of like, it can't get worse.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was the bottom of weak confidence. We're like, good God, how bad can this get? It's got to turn.
Exactly. And again, the market sits there and says, all right, if you consider it this way, right, the market is sitting there having priced in, because I think everybody knew throughout most of the second quarter that second quarter GDP was going to be negative. Right? I think all of us talked about it here. You could sit there and look at the Atlanta Fed GDP tracker.
You could just feel it.
And you just feel it.
Yeah.
You saw that number was minus 1.2 the whole time. You sat and said that number has very rarely been extremely off. Sure enough, it was not that far off. It was negative. So you're sitting there and the market's pricing this information in. The market's pricing in negative growth, negative growth, negative growth. Now you hit the point where negative growth is officially recorded and the market says, all right, well, what's left from here? And at this point, we just don't know. So the market says, all right, even if there's another 10% downside, I'm willing to go in now because I think now's the time when I can begin over the course of the next couple of years to make back that minus 20, minus 30 that happened in the first half. So I think that's some of what we're seeing. And again, the market, the challenge is, of course, that the market and Main Street don't always go hand in hand. So we could be sitting here saying, all right, we have a positive stock market while Main Street is in the midst of recession. I mean, in some ways, that's kind of what we saw in 2009. If you recall, 2009 was a very good year for the markets, right? But 2009 saw some of the deepest unemployment that we saw in the midst of that recession. Because really everything kind of collapsed at the end of, it had already been starting in 07, but if you remember, 08, Lehman crisis, Bear Stearns goes under in the spring, Lehman goes under in the fall, complete collapse. 2009 is kind of the depths of that Great Recession in terms of unemployment. But if you had invested on January 1st in 2009, you made a good bundle of money that year, even though the economy itself did not grow for a long time afterwards, right? So you sit there and say it's entirely possible that on the bullish side, we could be seeing a more positive market going forward. At the same time, where on the bearish side, we're sitting there looking at a labor market that weakens because of the lack of growth.
Which is very unfortunate because that just widens wealth gaps and creates spacing, even more gap spacing between.
Particularly if the average person has drained their 401k.
Exactly what the point I was going to make, and even worse, drained 401k and has racked up floating debt on credit cards. That's worst case scenario there. Travis is watching in Danville, and he highlights artificial intelligence for the three of us. So here's his comment. Travis Hackworth, You make the show better daily, Travis. I have not met you in person, but you routinely comment on the shows, and I'm grateful for your viewership and listenership and the commentary and perspective you share on the program. The King of Danville says how artificial intelligence and automation will replace large swaths of workers is going to dictate a large swath of the current workforce and much faster than we think. He highlights Rob, and I'm going to mess up his last name, but Rob Irizarry, a tech entrepreneur and an investor based in Bozeman, Montana, who currently works as Oracle's Director of Customer Experience Optimization. And here's what the guy said. It means more jobs could be automated much sooner than we thought, and that was before the pandemic, end quote. And this is something we've talked about. I mean, take what we're doing at McDonald's locally. You go to the McDonald's on Pantops. My son and I have this little routine where we'll go and like swim or play some squash. And before going there, we'll get, he likes a sausage biscuit. He loves the sausage biscuit. So we get him the sausage biscuit, and he really loves the hash brown. He loves the crunchy outer layer. So he's eating the sausage biscuit and the hash brown while we're driving to wherever we're going. And we've noticed as we go to the McDonald's on Pantops, Alex, that it went from being staffed on a morning by like 8 or 10 team members to now they don't have a cashier because there's the screen, the kiosk, and they just have a food runner that's taking the food from the hot area where the food is staying hot under the heat lamp and then just bringing it to the people in the dining room. So they've taken away the 2 or 3 team members that were the cashier. And they've encouraged more to go by taking away seats in the dining room, which created less seating. So Travis's point, I'll pass the torch to you. The labor is an issue for everyone, finding it. And now, according to this article that we read about CNBC, the average American says their household needs to make $108,000 a year to feel financially healthy. The mom and pop's not going to be able to afford that. So they're going to look for other ways to staff their business, and automation is clear-cut where it's going.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I just walked into a Kroger this morning, and I'm pretty sure the one on Barrett's, it had been a while since I'm pretty sure 2 more like checkout lanes got replaced by like a sliding conveyor belt do-it-yourself lane. Like I didn't recall seeing them before. It's some new, even more self-checkout lanes. And so you're going to see it happen. That's what we've been talking about for a while now. For a lot of these retail jobs that people have not wanted to fill for a while, there's a good chance that when those jobs are not going to be there anymore.
Right.
They're just going to say, you know what, I couldn't fill it. I can't, the mom and pop is like, I can't afford to pay someone $20 an hour to do this part. I'm just going to replace it with a machine. And those jobs will not be there anymore. And the question is, what jobs open up to replace that? Typically in the past, when there have been major industrial changes, you think Industrial Revolution, Tech Revolution, new jobs replace the ones that went away. Until we see that happen, though, there's going to be some people who get left behind and are unable to find a job that fits their skill set. And I think that is something we may see more of. It's being somewhat masked. It has been somewhat masked, I should say, in the last 2 years because of the surplus of job openings versus, there were more job openings. There were people looking for work because of, the checks that people were receiving.
People were staying home.
People staying home.
Yeah.
You couldn't be evicted for a while, so you sat there and said, don't really need to pay rent. I can't be evicted. For a while, people were draining their retirement savings, waiting for that higher paying job. If that higher paying job does not materialize, the one you left behind may not be there anymore. And that is something we're going to have to.
Isn't it crazy how quickly the market shifts? We went from talking during COVID how the leverage was in the hands of the employees when compared to the employer. We were in the COVID look at all these jobs. They can't fill them. The employee has all the freaking leverage. We were talking about that literally less than 6 months ago.
6 months ago.
And now the employer has the leverage. The leverage has switched.
But they're still having that problem, aren't they? They're still having
the employers of finding bodies?
Yeah. And I think it's a problem for me to make it out like it's the employees' problem that they don't want to work, and I think you need to point out that they don't want to work at the price that's being offered, and I think the issue is bigger than just the employees or the employers, because I think this will continue for as long as people are not making enough money to survive, working a full-time job, this is going to continue. And what we need to ask is, when is it going to start seeping into other markets and hitting other places where employers are saying, well, I can't afford to pay you what you want to get paid, so I'm going to find another way to do it.
I think that's happening right now.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah, that's the automation.
Oh, I think so.
I think those jobs are I hate to say this, but not very deep in future.
But I'm not talking about McDonald's. I'm talking about, when does that seep into other...
I think that's happening right now.
I know. And it doesn't have anything to do with the job not being, whatever you're going to say about the problem with the job or the employee. I think the bigger issue is that when employers can no longer afford to pay people a living wage, the small business goes away. There's an issue there that's bigger than just the employer and the employee.
100%. I mean, we just read this statistic here. Americans now think their household needs to earn $107,800 a year to feel financially healthy.
I was looking for that.
Roughly double the national average.
Yeah, double. People think they need double.
2x what it actually is.
Whether or not that's true is almost immaterial. I mean, people are looking at what is being offered at businesses and saying, how am I supposed to survive?
Well, and Alex, you jump in here. That mindset had a lot more opportunity and leverage about 6 months ago. Now that mindset of throwing their hands in the air and saying, how am I supposed to survive? You got a lot less options now. The Microsoft and the Googles and the Facebooks and the Metas of the world are saying, we're not hiring any people, and we're going to lay some people off if you're not producing. And it's now trickling down the ladder to mid-cap businesses where they're like, you're getting back in the office and you're grinding your 65 hours a week for this money, or you're losing your job.
That is the issue with where we are. And that is, I mean, to Drew's point, economics is one of those places where perception does in fact shape reality. And what I mean by that is, if people expect that prices will go up and they will need more money in the future, that's what happens to prices.
They go up.
They go up.
Yeah.
So you do get into that cycle. So that's not insignificant that people think they need double the money that they actually make in order to make ends meet. I think a lot of that, of course, is because of, I think a lot of that recently is because of what we're seeing in terms of gas prices being so high, because I mean, your major things are groceries, gas, and rent. Rent has been
everything.
Rent / mortgage has been obviously on the upswing for a long time here in terms of the percentage of your household income that it eats up. Right? My dad was telling me Xavier told me the other day. He said, I think this was in 1950 or 1960. I forget which year he told me that the average the average down payment I think you needed for a home was $14,000. And the average salary was like $7,000. And so he said basically in 2 years you could afford to buy a home.
And this is to his point where it used to be a time where one income could support the whole household.
Mm-hmm. One income support household, 2 years worth of income would get you a home. Now the disparity is huge. Think
it's
about
humongous.
it. You have a $50,000. You made $50,000 a year, and the cheapest home is $300,000.
Maybe.
You sit there and say, I'd have to save all my income for 6 years.
Yeah.
To purchase a home.
And that was my beef, and I've mentioned this on previous shows. This is my biggest beef, and we're going to get to comments. We got a lot of comments in a minute. That's one of my biggest beefs with, like, say, Dave Ramsey. And, like, I respect Dave Ramsey and this content empire that he's created, but, like, Dave Ramsey's zinging these millennials and these, which we are here, and these Gen Zers by saying millennials and Gen Zers, the reason their back is against the wall and they don't own a house and they don't have financial savings is because of they're buying a Starbucks coffee every day. And I'm taking a little, out of context here. That's bogus. What really has happened is the student loan debt for millennials and Gen Zers has exponentially increased based on the earnings, what they can actually earn on the degree that they're getting. And on top of that, wage increase has not kept up with inflation and cost of living, especially in some of these big cities.
In particular in the three big areas.
And the big cities.
Wages have not kept up with
college.
With rent / mortgage, college costs.
Yeah.
Food, and now recently gasoline.
Right.
So you sit there and say, if these things eat up 50%, 60, 2/3 of my budget, then it doesn't matter that the inflation on cars is
They'd have to win the lottery to save.
Right.
They'd have to win the lottery.
And saying that I should not buy a coffee or an order of avocado toast is just tone deaf.
Yeah, and that's my beef. And I think
as a financial advisor, I would say not to do that from a retirement savings perspective, but not in order to get a home. In other words, I'm realistic enough to say, yes, if you save $4 a day for the rest of your life and put it in your retirement savings, you will be in great shape. If you save $4 a day for the next 2 years, you are not going to magically be able to purchase a home at the end of those 2 years.
No. No, exactly. Thank you, Alex. Very well said right there. Neil Williamson has, first let's get to Xavier. Xavier says 1968, the average house was $14,000 and the average wage was $7,000. Nick, your brother, wants to correct you.
Okay, good. I was hoping Xavier and Nick would come in with the correct numbers.
Then we got Neil. This is on your Kroger analogy. The United States self-checkout system market size was valued at $1.26 billion in 2020 and is expected to expand at a compound growth annual rate of 11.3% from 2021 to 2028. Wow. The changing consumer preferences to purchase products offline after experiencing and testing products personally are prompting retail store chains in the U.S. to install self-checkout systems to enhance the consumer experience, thereby driving the growth of the market over the forecasted period. And then he has a link with the source. That's a great comment. Let's unpack that comment. The consumer, especially during COVID, got so used to Instacart or buying their groceries online and having them delivered to their house that consumer and human behavior was changed. Now the human is going into stores after having their behavior changed or altered for 2 years and wants to go in and out effortlessly and seamlessly and wants no interest with dealing with a human at checkout. They want to do it themselves efficiently and quickly.
That's always been my problem.
What, you want to do it efficient? You don't want to go talk to somebody? You want to do it? Is that what it is?
I don't want to have to talk to somebody.
So Judah is the poster child right here for the
I'm of the mindset, I go to the grocery store, I don't want to pack my own groceries. That's what I go to the mindset of. My wife wants to get in and out. She uses the self-checkout line. I go find the person. But either way, it's to Alex's point that these jobs are going away. Mm-hmm. And it's not just the checkout line, that's a microcosm of other similar skill level positions, right? That's what you're saying.
Absolutely. You're going to see, and I think to Judah's point, obviously there's probably a point at which it'll become more difficult for it to seep up. In other words, there's a certain level, right, of job where the skill required cannot yet be replicated by a machine. But I think what you're going to see is that a lot of the more lucrative jobs, I suspect, will begin to move into the vocational area. Because the one place so far where people really do not want a machine is in their home. Like right now, you cannot send a robot into someone's house to do their plumbing. A guy has to show up and do the plumbing. And if you've tried to get a vocational person recently, you realize how difficult it is. I mean, you're talking like 2-3 month waits to get someone, which shows you the demand is still there for people to do those jobs. But a lot of these other ones that require, and again, sometimes when I say low-skilled jobs, it's not an indictment of the people that do those jobs.
Oh, you're not knocking them.
I'm not knocking them. No. It's just the way economics works is if a job can be done by a large number of people, by definition, that job will be paid less because it would be considered a low-skilled job.
Right.
Right? It doesn't mean it's not hard work. Some of the hardest working people might be driving garbage trucks. The issue is that a lot of people can drive garbage trucks.
Exactly.
So that's the issue. And a lot of these jobs that are easily replicable are also now replicable by machines.
Right.
And they will go away.
Well said. Very well said. So last topic here on this. We have about 4.5 minutes, and then we want to hear everything today, mañana, for Thursday. Nicholas Urpí and Janice Boyce Trevelyan are highlighting something. You asked this, Judah. When is this going to start seeping to other sectors, like the cashier being replaced by an automated kiosk? Yes. So that is getting people thinking on the feed, which is an awesome thing about the show. So let's talk Nick Urpí's comment first, and then I'll say Janice's comment after that. The CMO, Nicholas, says this. It's ironic as well, seeing as the starting pay for Kroger is higher than the starting pay at the University of Virginia Hospital for PCAs. And then UVA Hospital puts their hands in the air and they wonder about the nursing shortage. Janice, on another Facebook page, says this. Janice Boyce Trevelyan is highlighting, UVA at Spring Creek, which is in Louisa County, have no primary care doctors. They have shut down except for when specialists come in from out of town.
Wow. That's not surprising. I mean, let's face it, a shortage is a market sign telling you that there is no one willing to work at the price that you're attempting to set, right? And in UVA's case, I think UVA just needs to, UVA is probably a slow mover here because, let's face it, they're essentially, you don't want to say like a monopoly employer, but they're as close as you can get in terms of the fact that they are there's 2 hospitals in this area, and they have
all the leverage.
And they have all the leverage, right?
I would say what you described is accurate.
Exactly. So they're a monopoly employer. They're sitting there thinking that they have all the leverage. But the issue that they will face, of course, is that they will see shortages forcing them to adjust their pricing level.
Well, and to your point, they're utilizing more of the travel nurse, and the travel nurse is extremely expensive. It's extremely expensive.
I'm pretty sure what they save on not providing as many benefits.
They lose with the travel nurse. They have to lose
on the reimbursement for the housing costs and the salary.
Well said. Vanessa Parkhill, Queen of Earlysville. Sam's Club has the best checkout experience. You can scan your items with your cell phone as you shop. You pay through the app with the card linked to your account. They scan a QR code as you stroll out the door. Wow. That's amazing.
That's crazy.
That is great.
That is amazing. That saves the cost on the hardware for the self-checkout line because you're utilizing the hardware of the consumer, which is the phone in their pocket.
That's crazy.
I mean, that saves tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Anything you put in your cart, you just scan it, and then when you're done, you just walk out.
Vanessa, you just made the show better. I had no idea that was the case.
I had no idea either.
Vanessa Parkhill. Kevin Yancey, it basically boils down to, during the pandemic, the essential worker was apprehensive most days to go to work, thus forcing the employer to do what they have to do to keep the registers ringing, be it the employers themselves or manned or automated. That's exactly right. I mean, 2 years, the entrepreneur, the Alex Urpis and the Jerry Millers of the world had to wake up and figure out how to survive.
Exactly.
And we did.
Just remember,
and we figured it out.
The employer is the one
that's the innovator
taking the risk. It doesn't mean that employees don't work hard, but if the business goes under, the employer
has the most to lose.
It's finished.
Yeah, and we figured it out. And now, since we figured it out, we're starting to figure out that there are other resources potentially, and I'm talking not just small businesses, but you're hearing this from the Fortune 100s. They said, we ran for 2 years in this skeleton crew mindset, and it worked. And now with a recession, maybe we don't need it. How about some closing thoughts here before we get today, Manana? I see the wheels spinning over there. You've been dropping knowledge left and right. I would love some more knowledge if there's any closing thoughts from you or anything else you want to add, J-Dubs, and then we'll get Alex Urpi in the mix.
I think I just want to say that before we get too cocky about people, not wanting jobs and well, then your job's not going to be around when you come back and want it. Like I said, when does it start creeping into other businesses? And we are, we're a country and a world, and when we stop caring about each other and looking out for each other, I just, those are the days that I'm afraid of.
Okay, well said. I like that.
No, it's true. I think you can't underestimate. I want to read this about it's not often that Mrs. Urpi sends me a comment while we're
on the show,
doing the show.
Mrs. Urpi did?
But anyone who knows Mrs. Urpi knows that my mom knows that she is a very sweet person. So she talks. She's the opposite. She's the anti-Judah.
She's the opposite Judah?
She goes and finds all the cashiers and she talks to them. And
that's what I
always
do.
Pitches. She's just like you, right?
Yeah.
And she said, she says, this is why perhaps the world is becoming rude and antisocial.
Yeah.
If we lose the ability to talk to each other, to talk to people we don't know, and we just kind of like get in our little lanes and everything's machines around us.
Well said.
And our only companionship is this little thing here, which has no personality of its own and puts everyone else as names and not faces, it's surprising that we're having a much more difficult time talking and being nice to each other.
Thank you, Mrs. Urpi. Round of applause for Mrs. Urpi. I get the impression you're the same way. I mean, one of my favorite things to do in the world is talk to people.
Yeah. I still like going to the bank and cashing my checks with the teller.
Right.
Because I get to talk to them.
You get to talk to them and see how it's going on. But I totally respect the other side as well. Well done, Mrs. Urpi. Thursday,
continuing to do what we do on Today Mañana, for all the challenges out there, right? We still, like my dad and I always say, we still believe in the small business person because they're out there, they're working hard, they're putting a lot of things on the line, they're taking risks, they're taking chances. So we always love highlighting them. So we're going to have on two different small businesses, individuals out there. First is going to be Catherine Yes. So she's a mother, pianist, singer, filmmaker, teacher, and collaborative artist of Puerto Rican descent. Sort of a Latina, I say Latina entrepreneur doing many things in Charlottesville is going to come on the show, as well as, let me pull up our second guest here, Matt Page, he's the owner of Life Cycle Organics, LLC. He's going to join us on the show. So two entrepreneurs, let's put it that way. Two entrepreneurs, one in the more artistic field, one in the organics field that will come on the show, share what they do, their passion, because that's what it's going to take to get us out of this.
I love it. Today y Mañana. They have a website, todaymañana.com.
Todaymañana.com.
They're phenomenal. The show airs Thursdays at 10:15 a.m., and it's absolutely dynamite. This is a perfect comment to close.
Is this from Nicholas?
I thought Nicholas's comment was really good, but I thought Katie's comment was better than Nicholas's. But hold
Nicholas,
on. Let's get to Nicholas's
I love your comment.
All right.
Go on with Katie's.
No. We'll get Nicholas's because I don't want him to feel sad that we didn't read his comment.
We can do both.
Nicholas Urpí said this. One of the cashiers at Costco taught Elizabeth is his beautiful wife, how to peel a lychee. Lychee. Thank you. We had no idea, but we were willing to try them. Delicious and a great interaction. That's from Nicholas Urpí. Katie Pearl, I thought was a great way to close. Katie Pearl, who we love on this show. Alex I met your mother after Mass one day. She's a joyful woman. That's a perfect way
Thank
to
you for that. I can't describe it better myself.
Joyful woman.
She
Katie
is.
Pearl calling Mrs. Urpí a joyful woman. Perfect way to close the show.
Perfect way.
Alex Urpí.
Thank you, Katie.
Judah Wickower, Jerry Miller, the I Love CVille Show on a Tuesday with our homie Alex Urpí, the CEO of Emergent Financial Services. So long, everybody. Take care. That was beautiful.
That was very
That was
nice.
awesome. Very nice. I think
Very
your
nice.
mom's going to like that.
I think so too. I think so too.
My friend, let me shake your hand. You're exceptional.